Hey there, my name is Chris Acton with Acton Creative, and this is A Handwoven Experience. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about weaving with linen. Now, let me start things off with a huge caveat. First of all, I am not a weaver who uses linen. It's usually a little out of my price point because it is a more expensive fiber, but more importantly, I had a bad experience a number of years ago. Let me tell you what happened. So I decided I wanted to try Cotton, which is a cotton linen blend. The idea is that you take good properties from both fibers and it makes it a really nice weaving yarn. So I used Cotton in the warp of my project. Now, keep in mind, I am a girl who's used to cotton warps. I almost always use cotton in the warp of my projects. So imagine my surprise within the first 40 minutes of weaving the project, I broke not 2, but 3 warp yarns. Whew, friends, I was not a happy camper. There was a lot of swearing involved, I must say. And that is just not my idea of fun. So ever since then, I have kind of looked the other way when linen was an option for a weaving project. However, you know, I'm much more mature and much more enlightened these days. But I thought I would give linen a second try. I know it's a really interesting fiber, and I had a weaver friend who gave me some linen, and it's been talking to me from the shelf over there. So I thought, okay, all right, let's take a second look at linen. So let's do just that. Here is the linen I'm working with. This is 100% linen. See it just like that? Now, linen as a fiber is really interesting. First of all, it's so old. We have discovered linen was used a long time ago, thousands of years. And it kind of makes sense when you think about the properties of linen. It is very absorbent and quick drying. It gets softer the more that you wash it. And as you can imagine, those properties would make for great garments, especially in an era where you're not going to have air conditioning. So you want something that's really comfortable and it's going to be strong. Speaking of strong, linen is not quite as strong as silk, but like 2 to 3 times stronger than cotton, which is pretty amazing. So it's a real tough workhorse kind of fiber. Sounds awesome, right? In bad news, linen is going to wrinkle easily. I'm sure every one of you have tried to own a pair of linen pants and thought there's no way to keep the wrinkles out. And it also has very little elasticity. And that probably tied directly into my problem with the earlier project with the breaking of the warp yarns, and elasticity was probably part of the problem there. But it's a very interesting fiber, I gotta say. So I decided I would give it another try. The project that I have on my loom is with linen, and I'm going to report to you so far how it is going, and then you can tell me your experience with linen, and we'll all be more knowledgeable at the end of the episode. So first of all, what I found is I really loved slaying my reed with linen. Now, linen is very stiff. There's a lot of body. See my stick straight up. Like it's kind of straw-ish, if I could say that. It's not a lot of give, not very malleable. So it makes it great when you're slaying the reed because you point it in the dent and off it goes. There's no wiggling. It's not misbehaving. It's great when you're slaying the reed. I love that part. And as I asked people their ideas on how to successfully weave with linen, one of the tips that I received had to do with making sure your linen stayed damp. Maybe you're thinking, damp, how the heck do you do that? Well, here's what I've been doing so far on other people's recommendation. So I've taken a spray bottle for myself, and as I am moving the warp yarns through the loom, forwarding it, I've just been doing a little spray, chink through the back. The idea is that the linen is actually stronger and less prone to breakage when it's got a little moisture to it. Now, you heard me say earlier that it is quick drying, so it doesn't stay wet for very long. And you don't need it soaking, at least so far. I haven't discovered that, but this actually has been helping. I am, 12 inches in the project, and nothing is broken so far, which is already better than before. We'll take it. Now, I've discovered a little something else that's unique about working with linen, in the weft in this case. My weft yarn here is 100% linen. And what I'm finding is that my edges are kind of a mess. You saw how the yarn is real stiff, right? Well, I'm finding that that doesn't really wrap around the fabric, wrap around those warp yarns as gracefully as something else might, something that was silkier or softer. So my edges are a little bit of a mess. Now, it could be that when this goes through the washer and dryer, that it's all gonna kind of soften up and it will be no big deal. Let's hope for that. But for now, in my experience with linen, I have to say, the edges, I keep watching them thinking, is there a better way to do this? If you know of a better way to use linen in the weft, you let me know. But so far, I have to say I'm enjoying it much more. Now, some other tips that I received were to keep the tension a little more loose than you normally would, so everything isn't quite as tight. Like I really kind of tighten it up when I'm doing cotton and wool and some of those. I really make sure this is nice and taut. But for this, I've made it a little looser, and that was one of the suggestions I saw. Another one is to actually forward the fabric more often than you normally would. And all of those tips speak to the idea that you don't want to have the linen under extreme tension. That's kind of what it's getting at. You want to make sure that you baby it just a touch. It just needs a little TLC, just a little bit. But so far, I'm liking it. It's just those edges. We'll see how that turns out. So now you, tell me what has been your experience working with linen. I would love to know all your tips, because then we can all kind of add to the conversation, and who knows, maybe we'll all become linen lovers by the end of the day. Stranger things have happened. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on linen. Have a wonderful week, friends. Happy weaving.